Take 10 on West Bremer Radio. We're going to power hour coming up with Harold H. Peacock, Ian Levers from the Police Union, and Pauline Hanson. And it's not political. It's just good, gutsy radio. It's got no PC, no woke. No. It's just, well, we've woken up.
Yes, exactly.
So we want to hear some good old-fashioned non-PC. Let's talk to Harold H. Peacock about this great yarn, Ghost from the Eureka Stockade with an Ipswich connection. Good morning there, Harold.
Yeah, good morning, Danny. This is an exciting story. You would never have guessed this connection. Like Eureka Stockade in Ipswich, very different from the rest of your guests later on, but it's a good one.
Well, fire up and insult somebody in this yarn, okay?
Yeah, okay. Look, I was in Melbourne this week, and Melbourne and Ipswich, actually, I find them very much alike.
Oh,
both
don't be ridiculous.
Beautiful old architecture. No, the architecture, Danny, and the history. You walk down Ipswich Main Street, look at those beautiful buildings and similar places in Melbourne. In fact, I walked the streets of Melbourne in Richmond and saw history in sport and churches. And at St Ignatius Church, that was founded in 1867 in Richmond, it combined both. You see, in the 1970s, Father Flynn of St Ignatius each week led prayers there for the Richmond Tigers of the AFL.
Really?
And it starred fullback Francis Burke, yeah. And it worked because Burke won 5 premierships and was named the AFL's team of the century. He was even canonised in the church.
Really?
But straight across the road from the church is a really creepy mansion built in 1888. And this is where the Ipswich connection comes in. You see, the home is called Layla House because its original owner was Dr. Joseph Layla. And Dr. Layla's son, Joseph Peter Layla, grew up there and he eventually moved to, where else but to Ipswich.
Ipswich.
Of course. Now, Joseph Jr. went into the military and served in the British Navy, the French Foreign Legion, and then the Australian Army here in Ipswich. The then Captain Layla was an officer in the 1st Queenslanders, or Moreton Regiment, which was founded right here in Ipswich. He was the infantry's chief instructor over at Enoggera. In 1914, he was a guest of honour at Ipswich's St Patrick's Day Parade and was judge of the Ipswich Cadet Competition and was given a resounding ovation at the official Ipswich luncheon. So from here, he went to Western Australia on his way to the First World War. But the career of Captain Layla ended abruptly when he was killed in action on the first day of the Gallipoli landing on the 25th of April, 1915. Now, Captain Layla's fighting spirit was manifested in his forebears, but not his doctor father. You see, his grandfather was Peter Layla, who was the famous leader of the miners at the Eureka Stockade in 1854.
Get out!
Yeah. And that, you remember, that's the rebellion that led at least 27 dead. Layla lost his arm, had a £100 reward placed on his head, and in one of those quirks of history, he became a member of the Victorian Parliament and Speaker of the House.
Oh, with one arm.
Yeah, look, the Laylas were well remembered here in Ipswich because an early book called Roll Up, A Tale of the Eureka Riots, was written by the Reverend Middleton MacDonald, who was the Deputy Headmaster of Ipswich Grammar School. Now, incidentally, during the First World War, the Reverend had the distinction of having his children be the only brother-sister combination in the world who were German submarines in separate attacks. Anyway, Peter Layla lived with his son, Dr. Layla, and his grandson, Joseph Jr., in Layla House in Richmond, the house that I visited this week. And when I was there, I got the sense that the building remembers everything that's ever happened there. There's an etched glass surgery sign that's still above the doctor's entrance. And as was the habit in the 19th century, there's still a red light above the doorway indicating that the doctor is in residence. Now, I can't explain this because even though the rest of the house was in darkness, and even though a doctor hasn't been there for over a century, the red doctor's light was actually still glowing as the sun went down. It could have been the ghost of Peter Layla because it's well documented that the Eureka leader died in the house in 1889, and there's been many stories that said his ghost still lives there today. And perhaps he's there with his Ipswich grandson, whose body was never recovered from Gallipoli.
Oh.
So, Danny, the Eureka Stockade story, 170th anniversary this year, definitely has a close Ipswich connection, and possibly with a ghost as well.
Another great story from the man that tells a good story. His name is Harold the H. Ark, Peacock, cock-a-doodle-doo. And you can hear and see this story on Facebook. How do we find this story to read more about it?
Yeah, you can look for History Out There on all the socials, or go straight to the website, historyouthere.com. Just wait till you see the photos of the Doctor's Light and the creepy building, and of course all the Laylas. You'll see that online at historyouthere.com.
So good, mate. And there's a bloke out there listening now, Philip Brown, who drives this big truck with about, how many wheels has it got? It's got a massive truck.
120.
120 wheels. Imagine you get a puncher a couple of times. But he's listening. He loves your segment. His name's Philip Brown. He's over the Pilbara somewhere over there, driving trucks, massive trucks. They're so big.
Oh, thanks very much, Philip. Your support is really appreciated.
Do you know, actually, the other day I got the shock of my life because I was walking down Brisbane Street at the top of town there in Ipswich, and there was a young lady coming, walking the other way down. She had a shirt on that said, "I love Harold Peacock."
You having me on?
And he had a picture of him.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Absolutely.
Is that true, Harold?
Just blew me away.
Yeah, like it happens. Like we're only human, Danny. It happens.
Well, the H was protruding out and the P was protruding out on the Harold Peacock.
Yeah, first of all, I thought it was an ad for a HP printer.
Oh, anyhow, was it cold? Anyhow, let's talk. Harold, it's lovely having you on the program. We'll talk to you about this time next week. Keep it tuned, mate. Ian Levers is coming up next. He's talking tough on youth crime.